Hey, what's up? Welcome to another edition of the Mandatory Live. Thank you so much for joining us on this Thursday. Well, I guess it's late morning here on the West Coast and early afternoon on the East Coast where Bryan is. We do appreciate you, though. Remember to follow our social media channels. We're at the Mandatory TKO, and also hit that like and subscribe button because it helps the channel grow. And if you already have, we do appreciate you rocking with us. We're also on the audio side, so of course, if you have like 1 minute, give us a 5-star because it helps the channel grow. This news that we're going to talk about broke last week, but listen, we've been really busy. You've seen my boy Bryan covering all the Olympic stuff. If you haven't, make sure to go check it out because it's some of the best stuff that you will definitely see, especially when it comes to the ball stuff. You know, Bryan, you handle that all the time. Regular season, Olympic, you're all over it, and even doing some Olympic boxing stuff.
Yeah, there's a big Olympic boxing, if you want to call it a controversy, quote unquote. But you know, the right wing nuts are acting right wing nutty. Is what I'll say about that.
Which I wouldn't expect any other way, though.
yeah, we can get into political things at a different point. Yeah, all over the Olympic stuff. After the Olympics are done, you might not hear from me for a few days. I ain't gonna lie to you.
Bryan's gonna be playing video games during that time.
Yes. I got a quarterback that I gotta continue to develop with the Buffalo Bulls college football.
Oh, okay. You went with Buffalo. Okay,
I'm gonna do one player for every position, and I'm gonna do a dynasty if I got time. I want to do the dynasty though.
You have to do the dynasty if you have NCAA. So far, I built a player too, and obviously, like I wanted to play for the SEC, so I ended up, joining up with South Carolina, and I already won a national championship. That's all I'm saying. Went undefeated in the first season. But we're not going to get into that.
I got some work to do for sure. I haven't created I usually don't create myself in football games because I didn't play football like that growing up. I mean, like on a team, so to speak, just 7-on-7 team. But if I did, then I'd be Darren Sproulsy. So
I guess the guy that I created is sick. He runs like Mike Vick and is like Andrew Luck in the pocket. It's nuts. Anyways.
What bear?
Yeah, I know, but he's sick. Sometimes I just run it. I don't even have to. I'm like, you know what? Screw it. I'm going to run it. Anyways, this is not a video game show, though. We are going to get into the fact if Lomachenko, is he ducking Gervonta Tank Davis? But first, we got to start off with the big news that actually got announced. Canelo Alvarez is going to be fighting Edgar Berlanga next in September. It has been announced. There was rumors that this fight was going to happen, and it is happening now. Bryan, your thoughts on Canelo Alvarez picking Edgar Berlanga? And this is going to be good because there's that Puerto Rico connection right here. How do you feel about this? And by the way, guys, we are going to be taking your comments, so make sure to drop them.
And if all goes well, I should be at the presser Monday covering that. So we'll post some stuff from there on the YouTube feed later that night and probably into the day after. Good thing the Olympics end early because of the time difference. So like we'll probably have time at night to post some stuff from there. So, and the men don't play that day, so that's also interesting in terms of basketball. Canelo Alvarez, Edgar Berlanga. I was dreading this because I knew this was going to happen. You knew this was going to happen. We actually have been doing the show long enough now. Can you believe it? A year and a half or so. That when Edgar Berlanga signed to Matchroom, we were both up here talking about, hey, in the press release, they're saying that they're targeting a future fight with Canelo Alvarez. I think this is his third fight we're going to see with Matchroom now. And we said it will probably be a 3-fight sort of deal. Here we are, cashing out Mexico-Puerto Rico rivalry. I had told you that there were some rumblings here in New York where I'm at that some people were like, hey, his team kind of wants to rush him to the top, if you will, right? Now, he didn't get here that quickly. It took a while. He's been boxing professionally, Edgar, that is, for several years and is already 27-ish. So it's not like he's a young phenom, so to speak, but he is here sooner when you look at the resume than people think is warranted. And that will lead us to the question below, which we're going to extrapolate on. Does Edgar Berlanga have a chance of winning this fight? Everybody, I guess, has a puncher's chance, but all I'm going to say is this. When the odds opened up, Canelo Alvarez was like -800, 900 or something along those lines. I saw at least in one or two sports books, that was the range. It quickly got to 1,000. I checked last week and it was -1,600. So people
that's crazy.
People jumped on Canelo Alvarez. to obviously win this fight, and he's Canelo Alvarez and is a lot better. And at one book I just checked, he's now minus 1450, so I guess that's where it'll land. So Edgar Berlanga has never been a heavier underdog in his career. I don't think he's been an underdog period in his career, so this is going to be new territory for him. And he kind of, in a way, has nothing to lose and everything to gain here because people think he's so overmatched in this.
Well, he is overmatched. Like, let's just keep it a buck here. Does Edgar Berlanga have a chance to win in this fight? Of course, he has a puncher's chance, but Canelo Alvarez looked so good in his last fight. I feel like this gets done in under 7 rounds. I feel like Canelo, if he fights like how he fought in his last fight against none other than Jaime Munguia, this is going to be a fight that Canelo Alvarez is going to be able to pick him apart early. And that's no disrespect to Edgar Berlanga. I'm a fan of his. I want him to win because there was so much hype on him when you think about his knockout streak. And after that, I feel like he was just put in a position to fail, because it's like, how do you continue that? People are like, we want him to go the distance. He goes the distance. And then he continues to go the distance. And they're like, well, we want the knockouts again. And, it's one of those things where I feel like he's actually not ready to fight Canelo. I mean, fought Jason Quigley, sure, looked pretty good against McQuarrie. However, that's not Canelo Alvarez. Like, who is Edgar Berlanga's best win? Is it McQuarrie?
Is it your boy Steve Rolls?
I might be, because Steve Rolls looked pretty good against him, and you shouldn't have. And I'm being mad patriotic today. I'm wearing my a Canadians baseball jersey. It's the Olympics. Steve Rolls, that dude. But
yeah,
I'm taking a look at Edgar Berlanga's box rec, and there's no one close to Canelo Alvarez on his level. And that brings me back to Canelo Alvarez, and he's on my top 5 pound for pound list still. But just fight David Benavidez.
Yeah.
Like, what are we doing here?
Why take the risk though? Why? Because it seems like he
wants 200 M's. He wants 200 M's to fight, and that's a big ask. But what are we doing here?
There's a growing number of people in boxing who think that he's just straight up ducking Benavidez, which I guess is another topic. But like me, as a Puerto Rican, I can tell you that if you ask me to give you ways that Edgar Berlanga could actually win this fight from a boxing perspective, I mean, catching Canelo Alvarez is the best that you'll get from me, because that's really it. Like the all I can sort of look for as recourse is like, boxing is boxing. Anybody could get hit, just like cliches. Because in terms of actual skill, like there's a big drop off here. If Canelo Alvarez, if we're doing this 2K style or Fight Night Champion style, and Canelo Alvarez overall is a 95, Edgar Berlanga is going to be probably in the low 80s. I think some people would even say that that's generous, but I'm not going to be like super disrespectful there. He is coming off his best performance. The only thing is, I think, Canelo Alvarez would have won that fight in even more spectacular fashion. Minus 1450 or 1500 is steep, but I can't really say that, that's bad or unfair given the skill gap between both guys. Like, it just is what it is. And Edgar Berlanga has power also, but it's power that we haven't seen as consistently in recent years since the knockout streak ended.
He's 27 years old. He's still really young, but I don't think he's had the experience enough to fight someone like Canelo, and that's why it's so unfair. I love the fact that it's going to be on Mexican Independence Day weekend. It's Mexico versus Puerto Rico, but I was mentioning this to Bryan.
Count.
Yeah.
Doesn't count.
I was mentioning this. I love it. I eat it up. Like, that's one of my favorite rivalries, Mexico versus Puerto Rico. Listen, but you're saying like it doesn't count because it's like not really a fair fight.
Listen, all my Mexican homies, right? Listen, truce for this fight, because y'all are gonna get this one more than likely. Play this back if Edgar Berlanga wins. I swear to God, I don't mind being wrong. We in the analysis business, the prediction business, you're gonna be wrong often. It just is what it is. But I don't think I'm gonna be wrong on this one. If and for example, I'll flip it. Give me the best Puerto Rican fighter in boxing right now. Just give me a name. Amanda Serrano.
Amanda Serrano, yeah.
Okay. If we have Amanda Serrano fight against, I mean, shit. I didn't count.
Katie Taylor too is great.
No, but I'm making a Puerto Rico Mexico point.
Oh, okay, got you.
like Erica Cruz, for example, I didn't count that as part of like, oh, this is the lore of the Puerto Rico Mexico rivalry. I'm like, nah, Amanda Serrano's going to beat her ass for 10 rounds and win by decision. That's exactly what happened. So this one, all my Mexican homies out there, all my Mexican friends, I'm not counting this as part of the rivalry. On my YouTube, I actually did a retrospective, the 10 fights that perfectly encapsulate Mexico versus Puerto Rico. And if I do a part 2, this will not be in it. I'll let you know right now, unless Edgar Berlanga potentially wins somehow. But even so, that'd be breaking my rule, so I'm not going to put it in.
If Berlanga beat Canelo, it would be the biggest upset of the decade. I'm sorry. Like, and it's no disrespect to him. He's a good fighter. He's gotten better, but Canelo Alvarez is he's in a different lane. And this is not a fair fight to me based off experience. I feel like Berlanga, even though he's 27 years old, I feel like in the way that he's fought, the guys that he's fought, he's still young and he hasn't gained that experience. Like, he doesn't have a signature win.
Yeah.
He doesn't have a signature win. And so it's so unfair to him. But at the same time, he'll gain off this. He's going to gain a lot off of this at the same time because Canelo's giving him that spotlight. It's going to be in Vegas. Already Berlanga has that star power. Like, he has superstar written all over him. He just also has to do it in the ring.
Yeah, like that's really what it is. And look, this is why, and we're going to get to comments right after I say this, but this is why I thought the fair fight would have been Jaime Munguia versus Edgar Berlanga, and then the winner would get Canelo Alvarez. This is before Canelo Alvarez fought Jaime Munguia, but this is something we were saying, like Canelo Alvarez fights David Benavidez and then fights the winner of Munguia versus Berlanga after. Like, that would be my perfect matchmaking scenario. But of course, Canelo Alvarez is like, fuck David Benavidez, I'm going to fight Jaime Munguia and then Edgar Berlanga before they're completely ready. And there's a case to be made, like maybe they're never going to be ready for someone as good as Canelo Alvarez. Like that, boxing is boxing. There's levels, like it is what it is. And Canelo Alvarez still, at this stage of his career, is a pound for pound top 5, 6, 7, 5,
top
6.
5 for me. Top
I would say. I'd say for most people, he's in top 5 or 6. And Edgar Berlanga is like, there's people that would say he's not top 5 in his own weight class. So we'll see.
Let's get to the aspect of why Canelo is doing this, because this is another, because this is a really important aspect of it all. Because Canelo Alvarez, when it comes to a legacy fight, if he was to fight David Benavidez right now, because the longer Canelo waits, the worse it gets for him. He should fight David Benavidez now if he wants to, because he's getting older. And when you think about how he's at over 60 fights and boxing years, Canelo is like 100 years old. Right. So he said he wanted 200 M's for the fight, which is ridiculous. But at the same time, like, he's saying, listen, if I'm going to risk putting my record, my legacy on the line, I want these 200 M's. And that's a crazy price. But here's the thing, Bryan, and let me know if this kind of makes a little bit of sense to you or how you feel about this. But if Canelo Alvarez was then because he's like, I don't even care. I don't care what you guys are saying. I'm going to do what I want to do because I have fought guys that you said I wasn't going to fight. I fought Mayweather when I was really, really young. And after that, I ended up fighting a Charlo brother. Everyone said that I was ducking the Charlo brothers. Who else did they say that Canelo was ducking at one point?
Golovkin, Cotto. I don't know if Cotto was like a duck thing. And also when he fought Cotto, he was so much bigger than him.
But Triple G, like for a long time, we were like, oh, Canelo's ducking Triple G. They were arguing over what weight class they were going to fight at and everything like that. But Canelo, at the same time, he has his resume. Like, no one can really say anything about him. But if he was not to ever fight David Benavidez, I think we would look at him funny. But then remember, there is talk that they're willing to pay Canelo whatever to make the him and Bud fight happen. Which to me at one point I was like, this is like a dream fight. But they're saying they'll give bread to Canelo and Bud to do it. And you saw Bud talk about with Andre Ward on that interview, and he was like, would you do something for 100 M's? And Andre Ward's like, I would think about coming out. And Bud was like, I would do it. Like, if it was 100 M's, I'd come out of retirement. So, and like, say the Benavidez thing doesn't happen, but Bud and Canelo does. Like, would you be happy with that?
There's more to gain for Terrence Crawford there. Canelo himself has even said this, that he would be criticized for fighting somebody smaller than him. 3 weight classes, now 2 weight classes smaller than him. And like I don't see, other than money, which I guess, that's the ruler of everything for most people, right? But what is there to gain from fighting Terrence Crawford? Like, it's a super fight, but also, like, if Canelo wins, I do think there's a point to what he had said before in a previous interview. People are just gonna like, oh, you've beat another guy that's smaller than you, whatever the case may be. There's some legacy shit there, but Terrence Crawford, I understand him pushing for that fight because he has way more to gain,
Yeah.
in that bout. Also, sneakily, like you mentioned, Canelo Alvarez being older in terms of boxing years, and part of that is like, while he's only 34, he turned pro almost 20 years ago. Terrence Crawford has been a pro for 16-ish years, and he's going to be 37 later this year, if I'm not mistaken. So sneakily older than Canelo Alvarez. But to me, that's still, for now, like a fantasy fight. I think it grows in realism, though, after these set of fights we're about to get. Like, after Crawford, as we think, and you could watch our live show from yesterday, we broke this down, talked about why we think Terrence Crawford is going to beat Israel Madrimov this weekend. And we're assuming, by the tenor of this conversation, that Edgar Berlanga is going to lose to Canelo Alvarez. The noise is going to grow, especially because Crawford fights once a year. Canelo Alvarez will likely return in May. Like, oh, maybe that's the May fight, so to speak.
It is such a dream fight, though, where I'm like, I don't even know if it's going to happen. But sorry, I kind of got off topic there, and we are going to get to your comments, so keep them coming. But Bryan, like, how do you feel about Canelo going for this fight and not going for, obviously, David Benavidez? Like, what do you think that's all about? I want to get your take on that.
I respect the shit out of Canelo Alvarez. It does kind of feel like opportunistic is the word I'll use, because, and it's good business. It's really smart business. He's going to make a shit ton of money for this fight against somebody who he's much better than in terms of all around boxing, more skilled, more experience. And on top of that, it capitalizes on Mexican independence, Mexico versus Puerto Rico rivalry. It's going to be the weekend of September 14th, I think, is the date of the fight. Now, that's going to be head to head with the big UFC card,
fight.
But a lot of boxing fans don't give a shit about mixed martial arts. Like, if you're a Canelo Alvarez fan, you might not like care, or whatever the case may be. Now, there's going to be, like, I'm curious to see what the numbers will be. But I think chances are, if you're at home and you're a consumer, you're going to just stream both of them. So it is what it is. Or you're going to just take your pick. Like,
yeah, I probably will stream both, but I want to see how the card looks as well. However, like you said, like, it's Mexican Independence Weekend. Like, wouldn't you? I know Puerto Rico, Mexico is a rivalry, but wouldn't you also just want it to be like Mexico all the time, and like him and David Benavidez? Because then it's like Mexico versus a Mexican American.
No, I disagree. You want to take somebody else from some other country and beat the shit out of them in front of your people. Edgar Berlanga, he is Puerto Rican. He's from New York City, like myself.
But there's also that difference between Mexico and Mexican American. Like, there is that storyline of it.
Yeah, sure. And look, in Puerto Rico, there's more Puerto Ricans outside, like, in the United States, than there are in Puerto Rico, because Puerto Rico is the size of, like, Connecticut. It's like 3 million people there on the island. Whereas in New York City alone, you have, like, I don't know, almost 1 million, probably a little less than that, Puerto Ricans. But you have, in the United States, reportedly, like, between 5-6 million, something along those lines. Which is to say, like, with Edgar Berlanga, I wonder, and people were asking about this. I don't know what the answer is in terms of what's his connection to, like, how much do Puerto Ricans believe in him. I'm not going to speak for everybody, but, like, me and some people I know, obviously, like, watch report on Consume Boxing, who are Puerto Rican. They're not looking at Edgar Berlanga at this stage. Like, they're kind of past the point of, like, oh, he's next. And they've kind of moved on to, like,
Zayas.
Xander Zayas,
who you guys are still hard on. y'all
Not
are
me.
not happy. Yeah,
Not
I
me.
know. I'm
Not
just
me.
saying, like, yeah, y'all are very tough to impress when you guys have some
I don't
great
think,
fighters.
but I don't think it's more so. I don't think it's a lot of Puerto Ricans doing that. I think it's a lot of people. There are a lot of people who just don't like. They try to shit on Puerto Rican fighters because once there's one who is seen as a phenom, other people try to tear them down. And honestly, if we can get like really deep into it, like which we're not going to today, I promise. But in boxing, like there are race wars. There are people who think that their fighters are better than these other fighters in when it comes to this kind of stuff. And this is why Mexico and Puerto Rico have had a rivalry, so to speak. So, but in terms of does Edgar Berlanga have a chance in bringing this full circle, so we can finally get to your comments because we have another topic to get to.
Yeah.
He has a slim chance. The chance is catching Canelo Alvarez because I'm not sure from a boxing perspective if there's going to be enough to throw at Canelo Alvarez that he hasn't seen before. So if he catches him, which he has the power to do, then maybe. But I don't see it.
No disrespect to Berlanga, but I got Canelo winning in rounds 1 through 7 or 1 through 6. That's the bet
Jesus.
I'm gonna take
What
because I
the
think
fuck?
well, I think that Canelo has great footwork and sometimes Berlanga's flat footed. I don't think he's gonna be able to keep up with a guy like Canelo. I'm sorry. Like and Canelo looked great against Munguia. Munguia has power too.
By the way, Erislandy Lara, Danny Garcia co-feature.
Yes. That's what I'm hyped for. I'm
That
actually
fight
more
was
hyped for
supposed to be
that.
that fight was supposed to be at Barclays Center like last year, and it got pushed back, and now more than a year later, it's finally going to happen. Boxing is so silly.
Yeah, super silly.
That's for Lara's WBA World Middleweight title. I think people forgot that Lara's a middleweight champion, but this is the first big time fighter that Lara's fighting in a while. So we'll see.
I love it. And Danny Garcia back in the ring.
Yeah,
Always been a Danny Garcia fan.
don't know how he got a title shot, but whatever.
It's Danny Garcia. He was a stud at 140. Let's get to some comments. Yayo back. Thanks to my tweet. Let me know what your handle is so I could follow you because you're a friend of the show. Tony Yayo also said, also, can we avoid the Algerian athlete talk? My ex timeline is full of conflicting opinions on the matter. We were getting into that before, let's go over to Yoda. Listen, Canelo isn't unbeatable. He has been beaten by two different styles, Floyd and Bivol. But like Floyd and Bivol are like that's just different. Like he was young against Floyd. Bivol's the best. Like he's top 5 easily, pound for pound list, and arguably in his division.
Yoda, are you calling him Canelo on purpose? Because that's a good joke.
I didn't even.
That's a good joke. That's a good joke if you're doing that on purpose. Let us know in the comments. And yeah, Yoda's saying two different styles, but we all know, and I think Yoda knows this too, that Edgar Berlanga probably is not gonna come like Philly shelling, you know what I mean, in this fight, so to speak. That's why I think the chances. And look, I do think he's made strides as a boxer. I think maybe in the first few rounds you'll see some improvements, but then eventually, Canelo will get to him.
Simone Biles won again. She won gold again. Like just greatness. Simone Biles, effortless. Like she just like, I feel like, I know this is off topic, but I feel like she just wakes up and like it's easy for her. Like she's amazing.
Gymnastics are crazy. I am PK 13. Canelo will expose Berlanga's lack of chin. Yeah, and probably lack of defense and probably other things. Like it's kind of what it is. Yoda, this is a good question. Do you have Benavidez beating Berlanga?
Yes, easily.
I have Benavidez if it's at 168. I probably have Benavidez beating Canelo. Maybe. We've been talking about this for a year, and I'm like, I would very much want to bet on Benavidez there.
He would have to beat him by knockout though, because I don't think he's beating Canelo in Vegas. He's not beating Canelo in Vegas on the cards. It's just not happening. And I think skill wise too, Benavidez is skilled, but Canelo is more skilled than him. And so for me, I would love to see the odds, and I would be, I kind of want to bet on it, but I would still take Canelo, I think, now.
Fight has to happen first. The Universal Boxing EST, Edgar Berlanga. Are you a Bianca Belair fan? Edgar Berlanga is physically bigger and easily heavier. And he's definitely better looking and dresses more stylish. I get what you're saying. Canelo is a paisa.
What's that mean?
But I still got my money. on Canelo
What's
by
a
knockout.
paisa? What's a paisa?
um,
I want the answer to what's a paisa first. What is that?
I shouldn't be the one. Like someone else explain it. I shouldn't be
Yeah,
the one. I don't
please.
want to. I don't want to
Let
mess with
me
the explanation.
let me look it up. You do
Universal
your thing.
Boxing EST also says he was ducking Andrade supposedly. As this
I will say so. I never say stuff like that. Remember one time Bryan went and like covered a Berlanga fight, and I didn't even realize it. And I was like editing the stuff, and I said, "You know what, Bryan? I didn't realize that Berlanga was good looking."
he looks like a
And
star. He
he
looks
does.
like if he I'm not even joking. If he became an analyst after his career is over, I'd be like, yeah, that makes like putting him on TV just looks wise probably makes sense. Now, in terms of whether or not he'd be good at the job, that's a whole other thing. But yeah, I think yeah, he has the look of
Mhm.
a star that people want to be around. That's why people have wanted to be around him for a while. Now we'll see what happens after this Canelo fight. If he loses, then you know what the answer to that probably is. And if he wins, he's out of here. Like, forget it. Like, if he wins, that dude becomes like a legit superstar overnight. But we again, tough to do. Canelo just turned 34. Crawford will be 37 in September. Yeah. Let's see. Yeah. So those are the comments on that. If you have more, we'll put them on the board. But we have to get to our next topic because
It's hot too. It's a hot topic, and we
speaking
went.
of ducking.
This one might be the biggest duck of the year because Vasiliy Lomachenko has decided to take the rest of the year off and not fight Gervonta Tank Davis when it was reported by many people that they were in talks to have a fight in December, possibly after Thanksgiving weekend. But it's not happening because Vasiliy Lomachenko said, you know what? I'm going to take a year off, come back next year. And now there was also rumors that Tank would then fight Shakur Stevenson, but now there's rumors that Shakur Stevenson and William Zepeda are going to be getting it on. So let's stick with the Lomachenko taking the rest of the year off, Bryan, when he could have arguably had another big payday, had a blockbuster fight against Tank Davis, and he decides he's going to take a year off. Is this the biggest duck of the year?
Well, some people would say that the dude we just talked about, Canelo Alvarez, not fighting David Benavidez, might be that. I don't like accusing boxers of ducking, but there's talks, reports, rumors about Vasiliy Lomachenko versus Gervonta Davis at the end of the year, and then reports come out that Vasiliy Lomachenko, one of the quotes was, doesn't feel like fighting this year again, and is taking the rest of the year off after beating George Kambosos in a fight where he overwhelmed him and stopped him, his first stoppage in a little bit, and beats George Kambosos, who most boxing fans and reporters will tell you is probably not the stiffest test in that division.
I'm so tired of George Kambosos, dude. Like you
I'm trying
beat
to be
Leo.
nice. I'm
I
trying to be
know,
nice
but
because I respect dude like
I
a
do, I
ton.
do like, and go
He
get your
comes to
money,
fight.
but
He
go
comes to
get.
fight. He got his bread, but he hasn't convincingly won a fight in a long
Teo.
ass time.
Listen, all I'm gonna say is he made money off Teo.
Yeah.
Facts. Like this is Teo wasn't he was dealing with stuff outside of the ring, didn't come into that fight prepared. And George Kambosos capitalized on that. So I give him props for that because he's getting the bag in Australia every time. But this is a duck from Lomachenko. And I thought I would never say that because at one time before he fought Teofimo Lopez, people were saying that he was pound for pound number one on the list. That's what they were saying about Lomachenko. You have a chance and you continue to say that you want all the belts at lightweight. That's what he says. He wants all the belts. Lomachenko, he said that was the goal.
Everybody says that.
He said that was the goal, though. That was his goal,
Mhm.
right? And we saw him cry after the Devin Haney fight. We saw him shed tears after that fight. And now you have a
some people
chance.
think he won also.
Okay, yeah. So the tears are warranted. Okay,
Yeah.
maybe.
Yeah.
But I thought Haney did enough.
Yeah,
Anyways,
me too. Me too.
but you have a chance to fight Tank Davis, who I believe is the best lightweight in the world, but also he's a pay-per-view fighter. You can get the bag, arguably would be one of the biggest fights of the year, and you want to take the rest of the year off when you're going to get older?
It's legit disgusting.
It's nasty. This is nasty work by Lomachenko. You're ducking. And I never say that, but this is a clear duck. You can't say that you want Tank for the longest time. And then when the opportunity is happening and there's conversations being held by Top Rank, oh, I'm going to take the year off. That's terrible, Bryan. I'm sorry. That's a duck.
If that's in fact what happened. If that's in fact what happened, I agree. It's just shit around this sport. You always kind of got to be like, until it's done. But if that's what happened, I agree. I don't see people accusing Tank of ducking Lomachenko.
Tank wants the fight. Tank wants the fight.
No, but that's what I'm saying. It's like all the reporting and the rumors and people involved like are suggesting that this is on Lomachenko's side. So, and I do think Tank wants a big fight, and I know Shakur Stevenson wants a big fight. That's another thing that we're about to talk about. There was a report from IFL TV that the unification between the two was set for November 23rd. Dan Raphael shut that shit down immediately, as did Shakur Stevenson. So that is not happening.
Shakur was like, this is fake.
Yes.
However,
and he may fight William Zepeda next, Shakur Stevenson, because I think that's his mandatory for the WBC lightweight champion.
And Mike Coppinger was saying this for a minute, like fight Zepeda, and I believe Shakur blocked him. And this was Shakur Stevenson blocked him because Mike Coppinger was like, why don't you fight Zepeda next? Because Shakur's last fight was such a dud in terms of excitement.
It'll be tough to make a fight with Zepeda a dud.
Yeah, exactly. Shakur is going to have to fight, but at the same time, I feel like the Tank and him fight was there to make it happen too. Like it was there to happen. And I think Tank wants it. And I think, to be honest with you, I think everyone's ducking Tank right now. I'll be the first to say it. Everyone is ducking Tank right now. You like Shakur Stevenson has said, I want to fight Gervonta Tank Davis. Well, then why aren't you fighting him in November? You're your own business, right?
It's funny. Shakur's a free agent. It's important to note. This is something that this is not like a top rank thing now. You can't really put this on Bob Arum. You have to look at Shakur and be like, all right, now make a fight happen. If it's William Zepeda and that's his mandatory, and
that's a great fight, by the way.
If they're like, oh, we're gonna strip you of the title if you don't fight him next, and just do sanctioning body bullshit, then whatever. Like, all right, cool, fight Tank after then. I would have wanted to see Shakur and Vasiliy Lomachenko when they were both at Top Rank. There's a non-zero chance that Shakur actually returns to Top Rank. Like, we'll see what happens there.
It's too much beef there. I think there's too much beef there. Like
maybe like Terrence Crawford at one point, and Terrence Crawford is in his corner, in his ear. Maybe Terrence Crawford is telling him, yo, fuck them dudes. You know what I'm saying? Do whatever, like leave, I don't know. But I think that Gervonta Davis, where does this leave him? I guess is where I want to get to. Like, okay, if let's play this out, probably in the most realistic scenario, right? If Lomachenko is in fact taking the rest of 2024 off, and if Shakur Stevenson is going to fight William Zepeda on a platform to be named later, but at some point this fall and defend his WBC title, Gervonta Davis does what?
Doesn't have a dance partner. He doesn't have a dance partner right now. Maybe he gets money and fights George Kambosos Jr. I don't know.
Could he unify with Beranchyk, or does he have to absolutely fight Emmanuel Navarrete again?
I think him and Emmanuel Navarrete would be a better fight.
No, like Beranchyk versus Navarrete. I'm saying, do they have to
again? No, I don't want to see that again.
Me neither. But like there was a report saying that the WBO may asked them to do a rematch or whatever it was, and I'm like, all right, like I don't think that needs to happen, but whatever. And now, and there's also talk about Navarrete fighting Oscar Valdez again,
but that fight already happened. But I don't mind because I'm like I didn't like Valdez's performance, and if anyone watches the show, big Oscar Valdez fan. However, I think what should actually happen is I think Shakur should fight Beranchyk. Right. That's why I was like, why didn't you stay at Top Rank? Because that's a fight that could have easily been made. And then winner fights take. Yeah, unify the titles. Because that's an easy fight to make. Even Lomachenko could have fight Beranchyk, and that's like Ukraine versus Ukraine. Like that's a cool fight to have for their country. For their country.
Not every country wants two dudes to fight each other on behalf of their country.
I know, but if you want all the belts,
I know what you mean.
You know what I mean? Like this is the type of stuff I'm going to be doing in Undisputed.
I gotta see with the rest of this division, but lightweight is not. Lightweight has some very good fighters in here, but I mean, there are three guys that the masses care about, and then everyone else is sort of next. Like, I don't think we're talking about Keyshawn Davis yet fighting any of these dudes in this tier. I thought actually because Shakur Stevenson was leaving Top Rank that Keyshawn Davis was going to try to get a fight with Shakur, like lure him in, call him out after his last win and potentially, but he just generically left it at like all the names, whatever. Raymond Murataya just beat Tevin Farmer, air quotes, because a lot of people think Tevin Farmer should have won that fight.
He should have won that fight, dude.
Raymond Murataya.
Murataya is disappointing me in so many ways. Like, I was very high on him.
He's second in the WBC rankings right now. So there's, which is to say, maybe Shakur Stevenson fights him next.
You know what? I'm really tired of these robberies when Subriel Matias didn't get awarded a robbery when he clearly lost in Puerto Rico. That should have been a robbery for Subriel. How come it did not happen in Puerto Rico?
But for real though, like, give me the Gervonta Davis fight next. Like, what does he do at this point?
I think he doesn't have a dance partner at 135 pounds.
Do you do the Isaac Cruz rematch?
That's what I was just about to say. I think Isaac Cruz fights this weekend, and Tank goes back up to 140. He hasn't fought at 140 since Mario Barrios, and fights Isaac Cruz. And I would take Tank to win that fight. Could you imagine? Because there's better fights to be made at 140. Because like people seem to be ducking Tank, man.
I don't know if he goes up. I think Cruz drops back down.
I can see that. But at the same time, I do want Tank to be in meaningful fights as well. Right? Because for me, I believe he's the best lightweight, but then everyone's like, well, Tank is a cherry picker and he cherry picks his fight. He just fought Frank Martin, which is an up and coming guy.
Frank Martin's a good win.
A very good win. Like, people need to stop saying that about Tank Davis. I think
Frank Martin's a better win than George Kambosos.
100%. Let's stop talking about Kambosos. No disrespect, but not today. I don't want to talk about him today because, listen, you got your bread. You know, like, he got his bread. Let's just leave it at that. You're making your dollars, cool, but I don't want to talk about you anymore. I'm sorry. Not on the mandatory. I'm not doing it anymore. Like, you know how I don't want to talk about who is it? We're gonna talk about Jack Catterall and Regis Prograis because that is a fight that's going to happen that got postponed, if I'm not mistaken. Like,
yeah, we don't actually have to talk about it because it got postponed.
Yeah,
maybe in October. We'll see.
We'll see what happens.
August in terms of boxing, it's not looking great after this weekend. Versus Ortiz is supposed to fight coming up. That's actually going to be a good fight, but there's not a lot for the rest of the month after that.
No, but we're going to have you covered, obviously, here at the Mandatory. Let's get to some comments. A very good friend of the show, I am PK13. Presumably, the reason Loma took the year off is that he and Tate cannot come to terms on the contract.
Okay. Presumably. I mean, we know there has to be, I mean, in boxing, what is boxing without contract disputes? There has to be some sort of contract dispute.
They were saying, like, the dumbest stuff, though. They were like, oh, maybe Lomachenko's retiring. He has other stuff going on, and I understand he actually does.
What is that voice?
It's I'm not falling for the BS voice. You know what I mean? There's too much BS going on right now, and that's what happens usually when these fights don't happen. It's just a bunch of BS, and that's how I feel about it. Because it's like, just make the fight. Like, what are we doing here? Fight the best.
We all have these voices that, like, when we mock people, like, we have something in mind or something regarding how they sound. So it was interesting to me that you went.
I do a bunch of voices to Bryan all the time.
That's true. Some of which we can't.
Let's just say that I do very good impressions. I do very good impressions sometimes. Let's go over back to Tony Ayo. Kambosos lost to Maxie Hughes, 100%. That's another fight that got me mad.
Bad robbery.
What are we doing here?
Shit. That was one of the worst ones was that last year? I'm looking it up right now. I remember watching that 2023. Yeah, I remember watching that. Now, granted, I was at a barbecue while I had it on my phone and I was watching it.
I
And
remember you
then
sent me your plate.
and and I'm watching this shit. I got like arroz con gandules, and I got fucking chicken and steak. You know what I mean? Like I'm eating, I'm watching the fight. So is like my uncle is like coming back from the grill, whatever. My dad, he's having a drink in his hands and be like, "Oh, who's fighting?" Whatever, whatever. Because like this is what we do. It's because it's a bunch of us. And after the fight, I remember texting you, be like, "Maxie Hughes got this shit." I had it like 8-4 Maxie Hughes or whatever. Like it wasn't even that close. And then I remember being like, but they might give it to Cambosos because,
They did.
name recognition, whatever. And then they gave it to him. And it was like,
I
oh,
felt
it was
bad
a
for Maxie though.
bad robbery.
That was a upsetting robbery. Like when it's very close and it goes to the other boxer, whatever, like that happens. But this was a pure broad daylight robbery.
Can I give you one more stat before we move off of George Cambosos for the rest of the episode? And for your preference for the rest of whatever. Can you guessed? Wow. Awful English.
You've been covering Olympics all day. Okay.
Professional broadcaster here. And Team USA is actually about to play Belgium, so that's going to happen in 10 minutes. Can you guess the last time George Cambosos won a fight that was not a majority or split decision?
No.
Did you want to try?
No, I don't. Like,
who is it? 2019. He stopped Richard Pena in Greece. So
Richard Pena in Greece.
We're talking about 7 straight fights that either he lost or he won by split or majority decision.
I just want to apologize to my family in Australia. I'm sorry. I'm sorry I'm being a pure hater right now, but I can be. Let's get to some comments. We got another one. Shakur Zepeda is official on October 12th, according to reports. Who reported that?
BoxRec doesn't have it, so but there's the rumor at least is that's going to happen in the fall. It doesn't seem like that's been confirmed though, but
yeah.
I'll tell you what, I've heard more Shakur Zepeda talk than I've heard Shakur Tank talk.
And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with him fighting Zepeda because I think it would be an interesting fight. And if Shakur makes it an interesting fight and he wins, then it's like, okay, well, let's talk about you fighting Tank then, or Loma. Like one of those three have to fight each other because otherwise, what are we doing here?
Yeah, to me, like, look, Shakur versus Zepeda is acceptable on merit, but I won't care nearly as much as I will about Shakur versus Tank. And I feel like now is the perfect time for Shakur versus Tank. Boxing, I don't feel like has had as many oh shit fights as last year yet. There's been some, obviously, Fury Usyk we got, for example, but last year it felt like there were more, and especially at this point of the year because we had already had Tank Garcia, we had Crawford versus Spence, and etc. Benavidez versus Plant became a big event. Yeah. And with this one, it's like I think the sport is ready now for Tank versus Shakur. All this attention that Shakur has gotten for better and worse. Just like now he's somebody who's like a live wire that people are just reacting to everything he does, whether they love him or hate him. He's a super divisive guy now. It's kind of on that Floyd Mayweather path, but he's not that big of a draw yet. But he's beefing with Cameron, and he's throwing shots at Mace, and you know what I mean? Like Joe Budden's talking about him on his show. You know what I mean? Like he's crossing over for different reasons.
For the wrong reasons, though.
Maybe,
but he's crossing over for being busy on the Twitter fingers or X fingers now, and also being boring.
But it makes people pay attention to him. Yeah. And if he fights Tank now, Tank is a mainstream pay-per-view star. Like he was more so for the Ryan Garcia fight than he is for the Frank Martin fight. But the point is that Gervonta Davis versus Shakur Stevenson, like that's something that could do a shit ton of buys. I don't know if $1 million is the number, but like 750, 800,000 or something like that. Like I think that's legitimately possible if you make that fight happen later this year.
And at the same time, I think they both have a lot to gain because if Tank was to beat Shakur, then I don't think anyone's ever going to be doubting Tank about anything. And then if Shakur actually, I don't know how, I think he would be running in that fight. However,
Oh, come on.
I think he would. I think he would because
I mean,
he don't want to get hit by Tank, man. However,
you shouldn't want to get. No one should want to get hit by Tank.
no, yeah, I'm sorry. It just is what it is. But and if Shakur was to beat Tank and actually had, I mean, I think he's gonna run. But let's say he beats Tank, then it's like, what can we really say about Shakur? So both these guys have a lot to gain. Let's go over to Yoda's comment because I think this is an interesting one. Also on Tank and Shakur, do you have Tank outboxing Shakur if Tank doesn't land a big shot? I don't. Shakur would have to be busy, but I would still take Tank to win that fight. Like if I'm betting now,
because he'll probably land a big shot.
he's deceptive. He's very deceptive. His Tank is very skilled. He doesn't throw a lot, but he's extremely accurate. And I think he's the best lightweight. I would take him above Shakur Stevenson right now today.
I don't know what I'd do. I think that is the truest 50-50 fight in boxing you can make right now. I think, other than maybe better BF Bivol, which is going to happen, like that's already set for later this year. So that's a big fight. But in terms of 50-50 fights that you can make, this is probably number one right now. So to me, I continue to go back and forth. Like I'm like, Tank will probably catch him, but like, what if he doesn't? And he starts off slow, and then Shakur just kind of makes it a boring fight and just outpoints him. But what if Tank catches him? Like, you just keep going back and forth.
You know what's crazy is I know how good Shakur is, and maybe I'm just being a little bit too hard on him. But even at this point, just based off what I've seen, I like the way Devin Haney fights over Shakur because at least Devin Haney takes chances. Devin takes chances. Shakur is like running. Why are you running? Like, I get it. The point of boxing is not to be hit. Throw and don't be hit. But you got to throw a little bit more. Like, Shakur doesn't want all the criticism, but when you're going to be a superstar, you're going to get criticism too. Tank gets it. Tank gets criticism all the time. And he's one of the best in the sport. As does Canelo. We just spent like 30 minutes talking about Canelo, one of the best in the sport. So, I think for Shakur Stevenson, he's got to roll with the punches a little bit. Bryan, any final thoughts before we get up and out of here?
Everybody gets criticized, first and foremost. I mean, there's still people out there who will say Terrence Crawford's resume is dog shit up until the Errol Spence win. Like, that's the thing that people are saying that other people would agree with. So whatever. But to me, like, that's the ultimate fight to make is Gervonta Davis versus Shakur Stevenson, because the winner will have the most "what can they say about me now" energy possible, and it will be earned. And we'll go with this last comment here from Yoda. Thank you for contributing so much to the show. Thank you to everybody else who watched. There's a bunch of people here and who commented. We'll be back next week. But Yoda says Shakur can beat Tank the same way Fundora beat Sue. Tank does take a lot of shots. Tank bruises easily.
But here's the thing. I think Tim Tszyu lost because of that cut, because he was fighting pretty well, and then that cut happened and Fundora capitalized, and Fundora actually fought the way he should have. But I think Tim Tszyu would have won that fight if it wasn't for that big gash. That's how I see it, and I wish there was a rematch for that.
So headbutt Tank very early on and then outbox him.
So hit him with the headbutt, then run. I don't know. But
I want the fight to happen because I don't know. I don't know which way I would go. I go back and forth all the time between those two, legit.
I'm rolling with Tank. But by the way, guys, if you like the content, hit that like and subscribe button. Follow us on our social media channels. We're at the Mandatory TKO. By the way, big fight going down Saturday, the Bud Crawford Madrimov card. We are going to be having a post-fight show, so come and kick it with us after the fights. Thank you so much for rocking with us. Remember, subscribe to the show. It helps the channel grow. And Bryan, I'll let you have the final thoughts before we get up and out of here.
See you Saturday, because that's a really fun card, and I've only have 2 bets, and I'm probably going to keep it there because I'm scared of the heavyweight fights.
And Bryan will keep you updated on SummerSlam too. We got you. We got you.